Yeah, this is a hugely stacked matchup. Let's see how we're going to be kicking it off. It's going to be the Rogue for Surrender versus the Druid from ShtanUdachi. Rogue definitely one of the decks we've seen a lot of almost showing off from a lot of the players here in terms of it allows you to do the small plays that make the biggest impact.
Right.
But Druid and Shtan playing the Oaken Summons version is able to put up a reasonable defense versus Rogue, especially when you throw Spreading Plague into the mix.
Yeah, and I think the Oaken Summons build in particular, when you include that package, you're aiming it at the more aggressive tempo-focused decks. You know, gaining a bunch of armor and slamming a 3/6 taunt on the board on turn 4 is incredibly powerful against what these decks are trying to do. And I think the cut of Jade Spirit, which is one of the weaker cards in the aggro matchups, goes to speak even further to that. So ShtanUdachi has the right build, as opposed to the greedier build with the Jade Spirit, Medivh, and so on that other players are favoring.
Yeah, the right build, and pretty decent opening hand too, on this end of the stick at least. The Oaken Summons is going to be very, very strong at the points you alluded to, but also it's having Wrath, and now the Jade Blossom for Ramp. Ticking all the boxes as far as he's concerned, but Surrender also has Kaliseth and now Southsea Captain, which is also a very strong opening. Along with the Corridor Creeper, Coin, Minstrel, and Valspine, these are like a display of key rogue cards, right? They're on the most powerful rogue cards, actually.
The Whiff does come out on turn 2 for Shtan, does just have to hero power pass. Surrender now will start exploding in power level, and Shtan will not be wanting to stare down a Kaliseth on turn 2. Remember, the last hope for Europe at this point, ShtanUdachi, after we saw Sintalol, who everyone almost thought was a banker to be our European top 4 representative.
We almost just didn't play out the match.
Right.
Just said, yeah, Sinto, you can have the win.
He had, by Frozen Zone admission, a 90% favored lineup in that matchup, but Shtan is now the last representative. We started with 6 Europeans in this tournament, and we are down to our last one.
The last one is ShtanUdachi, though. He gets the work done, but he is up against, as Admirable's mentioned, one of the most highly respected players among players in the world. There is not many people, I imagine, who would not put Surrender as one of the favorites, even in this stacked field. Going back to the hands here as well, ShtanUdachi still has a lot of his opening hand to go, but also just having the ultimate infestation there. Don't get me wrong, you don't want a 10 mana card this early in any average game, but the fact that he's done some ramp and now he knows he can almost just throw away his hand and then potentially refill later on is just something he'll be aware of and maybe alter his play slightly going forward. Spreading Plague only helps that as well next turn.
Yeah, Shtan will deviate here off the curve towards Oaken Summons. Wrath Hero Power just too powerful to be able to take care of this board state completely. It stretches out the value of his Spreading Plague until later. If you just left that board up and allowed Surrender to power through and take trades on his own terms, he might be forced to Spreading Plague much sooner than he would otherwise like to.
There's a chance now with Surrender with this Van Cleef that he can just coin Corridor Creeper Van Cleef, and that's 2 very large threats that are not weak to Spreading Plague whatsoever. Right. Spreading Plague actually becomes the speed bump we all wish it was, as opposed to the dominating force with the 5 health minions there. Play's looking pretty good. He does have to sacrifice the coin, and with Minstrel and Valspine in hand, you do have to consider what is the most powerful use. Those are 2 pretty big minions in my opinion. I'm okay with this.
It's the implications of Spreading Plague that's leaning him towards this play. Like, that card is so powerful against you that you almost tunnel vision, but correctly tunnel vision on that card, because it's the card that you're going to lose. The card that beats you. Right, because under normal circumstances, this is just a very strange use of resources. You're committing all of your big threats to the board at the same time. You're losing your combo activator for 2 of your best cards in most matchups. But this power distribution, as you perfectly set up, is just a nightmare for Spreading Plague to be able to deal with, whereas doing the same thing with the Edwin, but just dropping down Deckhands and Fireflies at the same time, Druid's pretty happy to look at that board.
What I will say as well in terms of activators, the decision was made a lot easier because Firefly and Deckhand are there, and now next turn, there is an activator for Elven Minstrel, and then the turn after that, there'll be an activator for Valspine. Right. So slightly late, obviously nowhere near as fast as Coin, but you can be late when you're rocking this kind of board. The Tyrant there really helped out Shtan, just put something a bit heftier onto the board. He can hopefully, for him, trade into the Corridor Creeper to be able to kill it off if so required, or make a big trade into the Van Cleef, maybe with the help of an additional removal tool. This is starting to stack up for Surrender now.
Starting to look very good indeed. Arcane Tyrant, you said, was a blessing because the 1/5s were just a speed bump, and ShtanUdachi needs a lot more to be able to answer back this board state. The 4/4 at least relieves some of the pressure. But Oaken Summons pulling a 3/6 is just, again, another speed bump at this point. Even mid-sized taunts like a 3/6 are relegated to speed bump status when they're facing down Edwin.
When you display one minion, and especially a taunt, to a fairly aggressive play against Rogue, you just, please no Valspine. Please no Valspine. Guess what? Surrender has Valspine and has a multitude of choices to be able to activate it, whether that be the Swashbuckler, the Flame Elemental, or the Deckhand. Although I imagine Deckhand won't be used. There's no dagger equipped, so just plopping a 2/1 Pyro on the board isn't going to do too much for him. Look at the follow-up as well. What is Shtan's even perfect answer to this? Another a turn 10 if he gets there, spreading plague into branching paths or something.
Yeah,
You're and that's a lot of ifs, unfortunately.
Right, it's the kind of situation where you're in as Druid where you need exactly like Fandral into Spreading Plague, into Jade Behemoth, into Ultimate Infestation, all back to back to back to get you out of this. Just your most powerful draws in sequence to be able to come back from this kind of deficit.
He's still pretty safe as a 7/6 here to pile away all that armor. Nourish, Shtan wants to try and get to the Ultimate Infestation and turn quicker, but the problem is without being able to do the 1 damage to that Van Cleef, very, very frustrating to deal with.
Yep. Surrender will also be invested in keeping this Van Cleef's health total as high as possible, not just because of Ultimate Infestation, but because he's starting to see the armor gain cards come out now. He's playing around with Spellstones as well. He doesn't want to expose the Van Cleef to removal as those get buffed by the Open Summons.
Surrender almost spoiled for choice.
It really is.
In terms of how to deal with this 3/6. There's the easy Valspine. There's even, potentially Backstab Trade Dagger. There's Bone Mare something in trade, so you still protect the Van Cleef. Close your eyes and pick a few cards, Surrender. I think it's going to work out pretty well either way at this point.
I don't think, with the stakes as high as they are, with a place in the top 4 and to be a second APAC representative to get there, I don't think Surrender's going to be shutting his eyes anytime soon.
But he could.
Problem.
He's looking insane. Obviously, all off the back of Kaliseth as well, just making everything just that little bit bigger. Can't even kill the bugger with the Ultimate Infestation. Can't really do anything. And Surrender gonna take game number 1 against ShtanUdachi. Looking strong for him. Shtan just could not keep up with the power plays that were happening early from Surrender.